Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. The left is desperate, and you know how I know this? Because every time reality starts to check in, well, they tend to have patterns in their reaction, let's just say. They default to the same tactics. And so here we go again with the calls for censorship, or I guess the indirect calls for censorship, the left-wing argument that only the experts should be allowed to speak, and when they say experts, they mean they're experts. Yep, the Brian Stelter argument comes back, the demonization of doing your own research. See, the problem with society today is that we got too many people thinking they have the right to do their own research and make their own minds up, and they're just so dumb falling for all this misinformation online, so we need to forcefully give the floor to the experts, I guess. Yep, that seems to be the argument that Neil deGrasse Tyson is making here. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so Neil deGrasse Tyson recently appeared on CNN urging viewers to stop questioning the experts, and he's warning that doing your own research could have ultimately lethal consequences.
It's not just always renewed engagement, it's also being paired with a growing distrust of people like you who do what you do for a living, who back things up with data and facts and science. People don't always trust it if it doesn't confirm, their suspicions of something.
Yeah, this is a problem going forward. It's the loss of people's trust in experts. I mean, let's put it just out there in that way. And that's odd because if something happens to the plumbing in your house, are you going to say, oh, I'll fix it? Or do you call an expert, right? Just ask yourself all the ways that you've engaged experts in your life. And then all of a sudden, you have access to the internet and you say, well, I'm not going to trust experts. I'm going to trust my own research. That could have ultimately lethal consequences if you're making decisions that affect your health and well-being.
Yeah, according to Tyson here, society faces a grave problem, a loss of trust in the experts. Yep, there's Neil deGrasse Tyson demonizing independent thought. And he's the expert, so you better shut up and listen. Yeah, except there's only one problem. The entire basis of his argument is complete trash. He trots out this plumber analogy. That was the big analogy to bolster his point. If there's a clog in your house, what are you gonna do? You gonna fix it yourself? No, of course not. You're too dumb to do that. You call the plumber. You always rely on the expert, he says. I mean, really? Is it so crazy to suggest that you could learn how to unclog your own drain? Or at least research the process, understand all the factors, understand the cost, and arm yourself with the knowledge to avoid being swindled? No, of course not. The message here is painfully clear that Neil deGrasse Tyson is trying to push forward. Don't educate yourself, don't question the experts, just call the plumber and obey. I mean, what kind of argument is that? I'd be totally shocked, but it's the same old tired rhetoric. It aligns perfectly with what Brian Stelter infamously suggested when he urged his CNN viewers not to do their own research.
That phrase, do your own research, it's popping up a lot. But this go-it-alone approach, doing your own research, it seems so innocent, but it can have serious consequences.
It's the same exact patronizing insistence that you, the individual, are not capable of independent thought. You don't have the ability to critically analyze information or data, and therefore you should shut up and never challenge the status quo, because that's essentially tantamount to heresy. Give me a break. Neil deGrasse Tyson and his liberal elite ilk are essentially telling you to hand over the reins of your own judgment, just hand it over to the experts, and by extension, what do you think that means? It means to the state, or any other authoritative figure. Why? Well, because authority is the game here. It's not about truth or better outcomes for the people, it's about power and control. They just dress it up as public safety or intellectual superiority. But really, it's all about the agenda. We're the party of the elite, the party of science. So shut up, do as we say, and never question. I don't know about you guys, but every time I'm exposed to this sort of thing from the left, the approach seems antithetical to the American way. As RFK Jr. eloquently put it,
we live in a democracy. We don't have a priesthood here. We're in charge of our own lives, and Americans need to do their own research. And, listen, people say trust the experts. That became a mantra during. I brought over 500 cases, and almost all of them involved a scientific controversy. My job is to read science, to learn it, and to be able to read it critically. And every case I've ever brought, there's an expert on that side and an expert on this side. When we brought the Monsanto case, and we had 3 experts from Harvard, Stanford, Yale, and they were saying exactly the opposite thing. Saying trust the experts to me makes no sense at all. Trusting the experts is a function of religion and totalitarianism. It is not a function of democracy. In democracy, we question everybody.
Blind faith in authority is a feature of religion, not science. Science thrives on truth, and truth thrives on skepticism, on being able to ask hard questions, on challenging the orthodoxy. Let's just make the Galileo argument. Probably the perfect counterpoint to Neil deGrasse Tyson's rhetoric. Galileo, one of the most celebrated scientists in history, is celebrated for what? Why is his story so famous? Well, he dared to challenge the experts of his time, the Catholic Church and the prevailing scientific orthodoxy, and he even paid a steep price for it. He was called a heretic in the eyes of the authorities, but he didn't back down, in his relentless pursuit of the truth essentially paved the way for modern science as we know it. You know, the proof is right there that questioning authority isn't just a right, it's our duty as truth seekers. But Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Stelter, and really the leftist hive mind, they want to take that away from you. They want to have the right to dictate how you live your life. It's a joke, it's an insult. I mean, let's just put it into perspective really quick. Neil deGrasse Tyson is making this argument as he positions himself as one of these experts that you're supposed to follow without question, but this is the same man who's going around the media on his little media tour making the argument that biological males should compete in female sports, a position that is so obviously anti-science, a position that defies both common sense and basic fairness. You know, kind of hard to take this guy's appeals to authority seriously when he routinely embarrasses himself by pushing such absurdities. The arrogance here, the narcissism, the thinly veiled contempt for regular people and their right to have their own opinions and do their own research, it's just such a big set of red flags. The authoritarian left is truly out of control these days. They're simply painting a dystopian authoritarian nightmare portrait. You know, the beauty of America is that it's built on the idea of individual freedoms, and one of those important freedoms is the freedom to think for yourself and to challenge authority, and of course to make your own choices. The state should never have the right to mandate what's acceptable to think, what's acceptable to say or do, and neither should private monopoly corporations. Tyson's vision here, where independent thought is suppressed in favor of blind obedience, is the vision of an un-American dystopian nightmare. People have the right to question narratives, they have the right to seek out their own information, and to form their own conclusions. And they have that right, no matter how much it pisses off the illiberal elite. So nice argument there, little Neil deGrasse Tyson, but we've heard it before. It's a trash argument, it's tired, it's played out, and so maybe it's time to wrap up this little embarrassing charade and retire from politics just like your buddy Mark Cuban. One can only wish. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.